putting together talking about turbo upgrades for the FK7. As the title suggests, this is what I believe to be the cheapest turbo modification you can do to the FK7, and I'll get into that briefly. Before we get started, there's not a million options out there today when it comes to upgrading the turbo for this Civic Sport or Civic EX, any turbo-based Civic out there. You have really 2 or 3 options. One being the 27-1 W1 Turbo. That one is a very popular option, as it is basically right the sweet spot where you don't have to do any modifications to the motor itself. Then you have the PRL big turbo kits. Those are very popular for guys that want to get over, to the 400 horsepower range. Still on stock internals, but I think a lot of them are like the 350 range. And then you have, I believe, some other companies. I think the MHI Turbo is like a core exchange. And then there's different price factors in there too, right? So I think like the PRL big turbo kits, probably going to cost somewhere in the ballpark of $2,500. The 271 W1's closer to $2,000, and the MHI, I believe, is up there $2,000, $2,500. So a lot of people are saying, well, that's a little bit out of my budget. I mean, I'm one of those people, and I was wanting to get a little bit more power out of this core system. I do feel, right now this car is bolt-ons, just as the Mishimoto cold air or Mishimoto intercooler kit, charge pipes. I have the InGen cold air intake, strut bar. I have a 3-inch catless up-pipe, downpipe on here. So right now this is basically where we're at, and we're all running this on the K-Tuner system with TSP's Stage 1 tune. And it's a pretty good package. It's a lot of fun to drive, but I do still feel that this car basically falls flat on its face when it gets, around 90 miles per hour. I just feel like it runs out of turbo. So I was trying to figure out, what's the next best bang for buck mod I could do for this car? And that brings me to this. This is a Td25 Turbo out of a CRV. 2017 to 2020 CRV. This is the same turbo that's in the Civic Si, and I believe it's the same turbo that's in the Accord 1.5T as well. They're very similar. This is a direct bolt-on to this car, but there's only a few differences, and the main difference, let's see if we can get this on camera, is that turbo wheel. And if you look in there, the turbo wheel has a little bigger and it's less fins than the 11 fin turbo wheel that's on the Sport right now. There's not a whole lot of information out on the internet about this, and what I'll do is I'll ping a forum where there's a few of us out on the Civic X forum that are actually performing this modification. I'll link that description, and in that forum there's things like all the part numbers you need. A lot of back and forth, trial and error. A lot of guys say you can run it on the TSP tune. Some guys say you need to run it with at least get a pro tune by a tuner because of the knock count. I'm gonna experiment a little bit. It's not really a hard modification to do, so my plan is to throw it on there, monitor the system, see how it does, run it on the TSP Stage 1 tune, and go from there. And if it comes down to a pro tune, we'll get a pro tune. Another thing I want to mention is the cost, right? How much did that turbo cost me? Well, I went online, and the reason why I got a CRV turbo is because I found that the CRV turbos are listed a lot less than the SI turbos. I got my CRV turbo for $200 shipped. A couple of good things about also getting a CRV turbo, in my opinion. One, the CRV is probably not a car that gets beat on, modified, running ethanol, full bolt-ons. So I feel confident that this low mileage, I think I had like 17,000 miles on CRV, had really little abuse done to the turbo itself. So that's one pro. Second is the cost. Cost $200 shipped to my door. Now, I don't know many mods you can do on this platform for $200, especially a turbo modification. And at the end of the day, in my opinion, if I want to get rid of this, I can easily sell this for $400. all day. I guarantee I can. So not really worried about the cost. Really is, like the video says, the cheapest turbo upgrade you can do on the FK7. In my opinion, it's this SI turbo. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to dig into pulling out anything you need to do the swap. I'm not going to be able to provide any numbers in this video. It's really just about putting it in. Maybe we'll go for a drive towards the end of this, and then, you know, down the road, what I can do at this point, because I haven't dynoed my car, is potentially give some dyno numbers in the future and probably compare it to another car that's very similar to mine. I know a lot of guys with this kind of setup, and what I'm hoping to get and what I think this car makes today is probably somewhere in the ballpark of 210, 15, 20 wheel horsepower at the most. I'm thinking with this modification I should be pushing closer to 235, so I would accept, you know, maybe a 15 wheel horsepower gain and more top end, and that's really what I'm looking for, is getting the more top end power. So without further ado, we'll get this series started. This is kind of the beginning of it. We're gonna, you know, go on this journey together, and I hope to take you with me. Okay, let's get into it. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the inlet pipe, disconnect the battery, take out the MAF. There's a couple miscellaneous bolts. I think the hardest thing is going to be getting the inlet pipe out, and then we're going to have to disconnect the downpipe, the heat shield, all that. Pull it from the turbo. Ultimately, it's not going to be very difficult, I don't think, unless, you know, you have a stubborn bolt or two. But, you know, you could also PB blast this. I mean, I honestly suggest anytime you're going to deal with any kind of like bolt that's on an exhaust or a turbo, something that gets hot, I would just PB blast it the night before. I'm just getting into this to have some time, and I don't want to wait for PB blasters, so let's see how it goes. Hopefully it doesn't get too stuck. But yeah, that's the first thing we're going to do. I'll grab some tools and get knocking this out. Probably do a time lapse. Okay. Hope you guys can see, so I'm getting ready to get started now. I've already kind of got all my tools out that I think I'm going to need. I got electric ratchet, breaker bars, 3/8 swivel, you know, basic tools, nothing crazy. We're going to start by kind of getting ready to look at everything. I'm already seeing something we need. I need a flathead to kind of get these off. And then I already disconnected the MAP sensor. That's ready. Got this magnetic tray to keep some bolts, loose bolts. And we'll just get started. It's going to go time lapse from here. So, just to show you, I already disconnected a lot of the bolts for the inlet pipe. They're kind of tricky to get to, not gonna lie. The best suggestion I can give you guys is to go to the 271 website, because they have really detailed instructions on how to install their inlet pipe, and with that you get really good instructions on how to take off the inlet pipe. So I might throw that in the description too if I remember, but definitely a good tip. Now there are 4 bolts you have to get. There are 3 bolts and 1 nut. There's 3 12 millimeter bolts like this, and then this was like a 14 millimeter nut in there too. So I grabbed that. Again, instructions are in the 271 website for their inlet pipe. The next thing is there's a couple miscellaneous screws up here. These 2 guys are, that just connects this here. I already disconnected all the valves and the plugs, so now it should be as simple as pulling this out. Pulls this way. I think I can get it out, but it's a little bit of a tight fit. I'm gonna undo this one too. There you go. There is the inlet pipe. I guess we can take a little quick look. So it looks like they have a little bit of heat shielding on the bottom. Look how skinny that guy is. Now, go ahead, get on to the next segment. Okay, next thing we're going to tackle is the heat shield. And just a various number of bolts and screws, so no big deal. Right here. look at that, guys. So very easy. There's three 12 millimeter bolts, no problem. Use a little wrench to break them loose, and then do his hand snug. Hey guys, I'm not sure I showed this, but the next thing to do after the heat shield is the O2 sensor. This sits on the top of the turbo, and what you're going to need is an O2 sensor removal tool, just like this. Now remember, there's a cable tied to it, so make sure you unplug it, or else you're going to like wreck the whole wiring harness and everything. If you unplug the cable, put this on, twist it, and just watch that wire as it spins. You're going to want to make sure it doesn't get snagged, okay? So other than that, it's pretty simple, straightforward. Next thing. Well, guys, so we're on to the next piece, and that's kind of remove the downpipe.
And I have a strip bolt.
And cut this thing out. Good thing that it's the stud side of the turbo, so I got a replacement on my new turbo, so let's cut this thing out and get this turbo out of here. Well, I've had enough of this stupid bolt. Time to cut it out.
A few moments later. One hour later.
Look at that. Stripped to oblivion. Alright, on to the rest of the show. Okay guys, so I went ahead and took the downpipe off. This definitely gets in the way. And two big tips. One, there's a coolant return and an oil to return. The coolant return line will dump coolant everywhere if you do not clamp the hoses. I did not have clamps, so I had to just send it over, put some towels underneath, and try to catch it the best I could, but it was a little bit messy. Other than that, it's been pretty smooth so far. Took the downpipe out to get more clearance. I have to get the turbo support bracket off now, and then next is going to be getting the turbo out. I'll bring it back when I get there. Ta-da! Here is the factory turbo. You see here, that'd be a good time to do a compare. Okay guys, so I figured I'd do this side-by-side comparison since it's already out of the car and you won't get a lot of opportunities to see this close up. So on the left, you're seeing the factory FK7 turbo, and if you look at the exhaust wheel, it's a lot smaller. Well, it's a little smaller, and it also has a lot more fins. So you see here, this one is the SI turbo or CRV turbo, and it has 9 fins versus the 11. That's what's going to make the difference in power. And yeah, that's literally the main difference between the two turbos. So come back and we'll get this installed and see how it feels. Well, there she is, guys. SI turbo installed, somewhat, kind of mocked up. It's just going to be reverse procedure at this point. I'm going to have to add some fluids because I lost some coolants. But you know, it's basically reverse the process. So I think at this point I'll button everything up off camera, come back to you guys when it's all buttoned up, and let you know if I encounter any issues. Honestly, this is 100% direct bolt-on. It's the same exact flange and everything. I'm not getting new gaskets. I highly advise that if you do this project, you just get all new gaskets for the inlet pipe and the turbo, but it looks fine. Honestly, if anything, I still have the factory FK7 Sport EX style inlet pipe. I think I'm going to go to SI inlet pipe next, so I wasn't worried about gaskets now, but for now this is good. See how she feels. Alright, I'll button it up and let you guys know how it goes. Alright guys, here's a little opportunity to do a pull from a dig. Let's see what she does.